So yeah, we do have some questions here that we prepared. We're delighted to take questions from the audience as well. So let me turn it over to Christian. What are some of the best practices when launching an ICO?
Yeah. So think of it as a house, right? You have the foundation, and then you have the building blocks. Foundations, you have community focus. You're taking money from the community, so you want to make sure that you do things with the community in mind. Transparency, you will be transparent, and then relevant to your background and background of the founders. Also relevant to the capability of the technology itself. And then you have the building blocks. You start with the business, right? You're not building an ICO. You're not just doing a token. You're building a business. So you need to make sure that you get the mechanics, the business mechanics right. So all the things about, we learn in school, right? Free cash flow, unique value propositions, targeting, break even, product market fit, all those kind of things have to make sense. You're building a business again. It has to be sustainable long term. And on top of that, you basically have the second building blocks, which is the token, right? That's what Kathleen and Jim were talking about. And the token is more of an enabler rather than a centerpiece. Again, I always go back to the basics. We're building businesses here. And the token is supposed to enable the business in a few ways, right? One of them is to incentivize the stakeholder within the community to take certain behaviors, right? Drive them towards certain behavior. Or disincentivize certain behaviors. And so the tokenomics have to go hand in hand with the business model. And so let's do a practical example because I see some blank stares. A token is basically some sort of value. Think about like a gift card. They're giving to people, the community, to do certain things, right? To, for example, they buy this, they could buy this token or be given this token for free. If they're given the token for free, it's usually called airdropping, like airdrop. And so they basically have this token, and they can use it to spend it on a website to buy a product or a service, right? Or to do certain tasks, to refer somebody, to verify, validate certain things. And so the model, the token model, that's what it is, right? And there are a lot of token models out there. It's called tokenomics, like economics, but with a token, right? So tokenomics are an important piece of building a blockchain backbone business. So it starts with the business, then based on the business model and revenue model, you build on the token model, right? And once you have the business and the token model built up, you now think about compliance. And why is compliance last? Because based on the business you're building and on the token and the token model that you devised, now you think about what is the best jurisdiction from a legal standpoint, from a fiscal standpoint, and all those kind of things. There's a term called jurisdiction shopping. When once you get there, basically now you start with talking with the law firms and think, all right, what is the best jurisdiction country to get into? And so you start thinking about, okay, so United States makes sense, or Singapore makes sense, or Switzerland makes sense, and things like that. And so business, token, and compliance, they all have to go through, hand in hand, right? And these three building blocks, they have to be supported by basically the foundations, right? Which is community focus, right? You're taking money from a community, so you're responsible, right? You have to kind of be responsible in their regards, in a sense. Transparency, and finally, relevancy, or whatever you're doing. Make sense? A few nods, I guess. I'm open to chat later after the panel if you guys want to kind of have a follow-up chat.
So Kathleen, how do you see the regulatory landscape evolving here for ICOs?
I'm blissfully not a lawyer, nor do I work for the feds. I think Christian's probably more attuned to this, actually. Like, I just focus very much on what Tezos is doing in the next 5-6 years. I don't have very strong opinions on what's going on.
That's a question number 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you see?
I think we were chatting a little bit about that earlier on in the green room, but I think we're going to see a lot of failures. 74% of the ICO in 2017 already failed. right? Which is good, because if you think about it, 74 means 1 minus 0.74 is what, 26%? In a VC term and lingo, that's an amazing result, right? So we're going to see still like a little bit of this rocky boats a little bit till people kind of figure it out to kind of work with the ICOs and these very young teams kind of figure it out to kind of build a business. We're going to see a lot more institutional money coming in. I get on the call with VCs day in, day out, asking how can I get into this thing? I see these huge gains, 50, 60, 70, 100% a month or a day. And so a lot of that institutional money will be coming in this year and next year. A lot more enterprises are going to get in. Like I'm talking about established businesses or Fortune 1000s, right? Either trying to implement blockchain within their ecosystem, legacy system, or tokenizing some of the business units. One of my clients is one of the largest gaming company, and they're trying to tokenize one of their sites, one of their units. And so they're thinking, how can we incentivize the use of token to basically generate an ecosystem and create stickiness with the community, right? And that's what a token is for. And a lot more regulations, right? We know the SEC is definitely coming up. The CFTC, the IRS is trying to figure out how to tax these tokens. So a lot more regulation will come in. And we hope there's going to be self-regulation first in conjunction with traditional regulators. Because what we're trying to avoid here is to kind of enable the growth of the space and not to kind of have it shut down by the top-down approach, right? So one of the things that I'm involved in is the Blockchain Compliance Alliance. It's a no-profit organization to develop an ICO standard in conjunction with regulators. So we're going to see these 3 or 4 things coming up, I think, in the next few years.
Yeah, because this whole ecosystem is not just about crazy valuations of anyone can make a token. It's also about really interesting research initiatives like what's happening at IC3. And if you look at things like ZK Starks, for example, which is like a type of way to preserve privacy in a blockchain environment, but also a way to provide compression. Well, if we have better compression technology, all of a sudden we get some pretty cool benefits for, I don't know, the field of radiology, which struggles with that as a issue when you're transferring data back and forth in computer systems. So there's benefits across the world. It's not just about crazy headlines. There is some good to it.
So there was a question came in from the audience. Kathleen, maybe you can address it. You're trying to build a dev team right now. The question was, there are 14 blockchain jobs, 14 jobs for every person?
Yeah, something crazy like that.
Yeah, is it really that high? And how are you going about filling the roles you have?
So blockchains are just a way to implement a distributed ledger. Distributed ledger technology has some very interesting aspects from computer science. It's got the whole notion of networking, privacy, security. There's an aspect of game theory and economics, which have to be incorporated in a good blockchain design. But by and large, what we've been doing for our recruitment strategy for Dynamic Ledger Solutions, my company, and the Tezos Foundation more broadly, is just taking really smart people, sitting them down in a room, and in about 2 weeks you can get a blockchain expert if they're sufficiently intelligent, right? I think there's this mythology that you have to be a Bitcoin anarchist if you want to participate in this as some sort of prerequisite. But in fact, if you sit down a pretty decent engineer and you give them the Bitcoin code base, they can probably do a pretty handy job of teaching themselves. So I think there's this mythology that you have to be a blockchain engineer. I'm no, you need a good engineer first and foremost, and then any decent one worth their salt will learn about blockchains within a few weeks. So if you get intimidated because you don't know exactly how Bitcoin works, I challenge you to just sit down and try to understand it. It's not rocket science, right?
Let's do a polling. Raise your hands. How many of you own a Bitcoin? Or a part of it? 1% of the room, great. So first off, you can own a fraction of a Bitcoin. Go to Coinbase.com, sign up, put your credit card in it, and you can buy $100 of a Bitcoin. Okay, you don't have to buy $20,000 of it. That's gonna get you started, right?
Yeah, I think if you're having trouble filling in your engineering spot, talk to me. It's really, I think that's just a myth that non-technical people have. Oh no, but so-and-so is really smart. They have a CS degree from Cornell, but they don't know blockchain. Get someone to teach them. It's pretty easy.
So our time is up, unfortunately. We'll be around during the break. We're happy to answer some of the questions. Or some other good questions came in, but we don't have time to address them. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.